Verse 22 says, and when a man has committed a sin worthy of death, then he's been put to death, and you have hung him on a tree. Let his body not remain overnight on the tree, and you do certainly bury him the same day. For he who is hanged is accursed of Elohim, so that you do not defile the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. Okay, so we know that this is prophetic of Yeshua. Paul says, Messiah ransomed us from the curse of the Torah, having become a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs upon a tree. And of course, we know that his body did not remain overnight upon the tree. But this phrasing here, on the tree, causes people to go astray into false doctrines. Okay, people think that Yeshua was not executed on a cross, that Yeshua instead was executed on an execution stake. They say things like the pagans have the crosses in their worship, and the word doesn't even mean cross, the word means stake. Okay, which would be fair enough. You know, people don't do these things on purpose. The word, however, though, okay, we see it here in Thayer's Greek lexicon. The word is stauros. Okay, this is what he was executed on. Every time reference is made to it, it says stauros. An upright stake, especially a pointed one. And this is in the Greek lexicon because in works of people such as Homer, Herodotus, Thucydides, okay, at that time in Greek, that's what the word meant. It meant an execution stake. You'll notice, however, it's also defined as a cross, and that's for a very good reason. In Koine Greek, now we need to recognize that the Greek of the New Testament was not the Greek of Homer. It wasn't the Greek of Herodotus. Languages change. You know, you can look back in time just in English. You can look back 500, 600 years in English, and English words meant completely different things. In Koine Greek, the form of Greek in use between about 300 BC and 300 AD, okay, I've heard it referred to as like street Greek. Okay, it's kind of like rough and ready Greek. It's not the Greek of Homer and Herodotus. The word stauros was used to denote a wooden object on which the Romans executed criminals. So you can see how language develops. Okay, the stauros, the execution stake. Then when the Romans started doing it, it started being used to refer to that as well. The word stauros was used to denote a wooden object in which the Romans executed criminals. When the word is thus employed in the writings of Diodorus Siculus, who was in the 1st century, Plutarch and Lucian, all of whom were non-Christian writers, of whom only Lucian makes clear the shape of the device, the authoritative Greek to English lexicon translates it as cross, because this is what I referred to. This is the wooden object that the Romans executed people on. They executed people on crosses. They didn't execute people on execution stakes. Okay, they would perhaps have someone go to a stake, but they would have them to carry their crossbeam to the stake and then be affixed to it as a cross. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, this form of capital punishment involved binding the victim with outstretched arms, this is not a scriptural source or a Christian source, to a crossbeam, or nailing him firmly to it through the wrists. The crossbeam was then raised against an upright shaft and made fast to it about 3 meters from the ground, and the feet were tightly bound or nailed to the upright shaft. Speaking specifically about the stauros of Jesus, Yeshua, early Christian writers unanimously supposed it to have had a crossbeam. Thus, Justin Martyr said that it prefigured the Jewish Passover lamb. Okay, he's got his doctrine a bit wrong there. It's not the Jewish Passover lamb, but this is the words that he used. That lamb which was commanded to be wholly roasted was a symbol of the suffering of the stauros which Christ would undergo. For the lamb which is roasted and dressed up in the form of a stauros, for one spit is transfixed right through from the lower parts up to the head, and one across the back, to which are attached the legs of the lamb. Okay, so he uses the word stauros. He says the stauros prefigured this because it was a cross shape. The stauros was a cross in Yeshua's time. Exodus 12:7 shows us how it actually the Passover actually prefigured. Okay, that's just a Jewish tradition, the fact that they had the spit going one way and then another. He just makes reference to it, but it did actually prefigure Yeshua's execution. It says that they were to take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses that they were in. And of course, this prefigured Yeshua's crucifixion. Okay, you've got the blood on the 2 doorposts, okay, and then you've got the blood on the lintel as well. Prefigured his execution, the outstretched hands being prefigured in it. Exodus 6:6. Say therefore to the children of Israel, I am Yahovah, and have brought you out from under the burdens of the Mitzrites, and have delivered you from their enslaving, and have ransomed you with an outstretched arm. With outstretched arms, not on an execution stake where they would nail your hands above, nail through your 2 wrists, and your feet below. That's how someone would be on an execution stake, with a little seat nailed on as well to sit to. John 20:24-25, but Thomas, called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Yeshua came. So the other disciples said to him, we've seen the Master. But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and put my finger into the imprint of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I shall by no means believe. What did he ask for? Did he ask for the imprint of the nail? He was going to put his hand into the imprint of the nail? No. He asked for the imprint of the nails, because his arms were stretched out in the form that stauros would have been at that time. Genesis 48:14, and Yisrael stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, here, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, okay, who was here, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. So when he did this, he actually forms the Hebrew letter, the Tav. And the Hebrew letter is the final letter in the alphabet, and it's in a cross shape. In the Paleo-Hebrew, it's a cross shape, and it means the covenant. Okay, it's a sign of the covenant, the Tav. And it's very interesting, this Tav, this cross. Okay, in Ezekiel, when we see that they have the marks put on their foreheads, okay, they have a mark put on their foreheads. The word in Hebrew is Tav, okay? It's the cross. On all of the foreheads, the mark which saved them was a cross on their foreheads. And we're told in Revelation that the 144,000 will all have a mark on their foreheads prefigured by this. Okay, and we're told in Revelation 14 that it is the name of their Elohim. Okay, the name, the character, the reputation of their Elohim. And what better symbol for the character of our Elohim than this sign by which he came and died for us. Okay, that's how his name is on their foreheads. Also, when they were camped, okay, when Israel were camped, couldn't say that they were in these formations to the north, east, south, and west. However, they were camped to the north, east, south, and west in a cross shape. So every time they packed up and went somewhere else, they would camp in a cross shape. If you were looking down on it, you would see the cross was from Yahovah's perspective.